Hey everybody. I got two requests from some friends to do another ghost story. And the one that I have right now is kind of long, so I might have to do it in like segments. It's a lot. It's the mother lode, because it happened over the course of a year, and it all unfolded in a certain way. So I took some notes down here so that I don't forget anything. It all started in 1987 when my sister moved into a house with her husband and her little girl. Her little girl was 3. My sister was pregnant, so they're renting, right? They have a lease for 1 year. The house was built in 1900, and I gotta tell you a little bit about my niece for all this to make sense to you as being awkward like it was to us. My niece was always a very level-headed, stable-minded child. Always. She had one of those Crayola carousels for her crayons, and if she ever broke one, then she would ask to have one replaced, and her mom would give her the one that she had extra to replace it. They were color coordinated, all the blues and then the greens and the yellows to the oranges, and it went like that with her. It was just weird. She was just that way. And she had like dolls. Her mom would collect dolls for her and put them on the shelves in her room, and she'd tell her, you can't play with these, and she wouldn't mess with them. She would come ask permission to brush their hair. Usually the answer was no, but she had specific dolls that she was allowed to play with as well. She had absolutely no imagination. Everything was literal. She was the most unfun child I'd ever met. So, that being said, you'll understand why everything else just didn't make sense. So, it all started when my sister went to a doctor's appointment and found out she was high risk. The baby wasn't doing well. She needed to stay down and blah, blah, blah. So, she continued to stay upstairs, and the way it was set up was from the hallway you would enter my sister's room. From my sister's room you could get to my niece's room, and then from the hallway there was another room that you could get to my niece's room from, but my niece's room didn't have a door that went to the hallway. It was like everything was really crammed into one area. So in order to leave my niece's room, you had to walk through the spare room that we didn't use at all because the floor was really warped. It was really bad. Or you'd have to walk through my sister's room. But the way they used to heat the homes back then was there was a heat source downstairs and a vent in the ceiling above the heat so that it could rise to the upstairs. So my niece's room, on top of being closed in on the corner like that, it was getting the heat because the vent was in her room, so it got hot a lot in there. There were only 2 closets in the house. There was one below the stairs downstairs, and there was one in my niece's room upstairs. And that's where we kept sheets, towels, blankets, extra stuff that we would use during every day. And I loved putting things away in the summertime because I would take everything up there and I would put it on the shelves. The closet was ice cold. It stayed so cool. Not the rest of the house, but the closet. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I was just like, I'll put them away. We would do laundry and the dishes and blah blah, so we would take turns with stuff. And my sister, one night I was watching TV in the den while she was folding clothes. It was summertime, so the heat was off. She was using the top of the heater to fold the clothes and put them in stacks. And she listened for my niece, who never woke up. Once she was in bed, she was in bed. She said, go check on her, she's talking. Which was really weird. So I go upstairs and to check on her, and she's awake, and she's sitting at her little Tyke's table and chairs, and she has little dishware set out, like places. And I was like, Bebop, what are you doing? She said nothing. I was like, get back in the bed. So I sat with her until she fell back to sleep. That was her thing. She wanted someone to lay with her while she fell asleep, and I just sat in the chair with her until she fell asleep. And I went back downstairs, and my sister was like, was she up? I was like, yeah, that's what took me so long.
I'm going to be out back.
It happened again the next night, and that night it happened twice. I went upstairs and I put her back to sleep. I came back downstairs, and it wasn't 10 minutes later, and here's my sister downstairs folding the clothes like she does at the end of every day, and she can hear her talking. That's twice in one night. She told me by the third night when it happened, she said, you tell her you're going to whip her ass. I said, I am not telling her I'm going to whip her. So I went upstairs and I said, what are you doing? She jumps up and jumps in the bed. Same thing. She's got these little places. And that night I snuck up. I snuck up there, and I could hear her talking. And by the time I got to the middle of the stairs, she stopped. About the fourth or fifth night, because this was every night, about the fourth or fifth night, it happened again. And my sister went up there. That time she whipped her butt. But it happened pretty often, to the point that it was like she had some kind of radar, and she knew when we were coming up the stairs, and she would jump in the bed and lay there and act like she was asleep. And anyway, so that went on for a while. Okay, so the next part of this story is my sister being pregnant, being high risk after she moved into the home and having to move downstairs. She moved downstairs to the dining room with her husband. We moved everything down there. And then I stayed upstairs in her room, her old room, next to my niece's room.